Disaster, it's a self our boys trying to survive. Our borders rid us of our choice. Clear walls we can see through. The master tells us to rejoice. And as above he flies, the lies were told, nothing but noise. Clear thoughts these can lead to. Knocking them down, we settle in. Humans we are in the making. Lift up our voice for all to hear. Healing the world, healing ourselves, the only way. Knocking them down, we settle in. Humans we are in the making. Lift up our voice for all to hear. Healing the world, healing ourselves, the only way. We're moving on, moving home, moving toward what's new. We're moving on, moving home, finding peace and truth. We're moving on, moving home, moving toward what's new. We're moving on, we're moving home, finding peace and truth. Humans in the making, consistent with breaking down. Lovely are the people who will choose to be together now. Finding in the future possibilities outside of now. Lovely are the ways we're finding to relate. Oh, coming round, coming round.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the hybrid world of extended reality. My name is Lewis Marks here with Ropedo. I'm going to turn the mic over to Fabian Brown so I can check in with the president of Ropedo, who's chiming in right now.
No pressure, no pressure. The president of RoboDope calls. I understand, Lewis. I totally understand. Here's what I'll say. First of all, it's great to see the worlds collide and the worlds meet. We have some great humans, on the Zoom call right now, as well as some great avatars in the virtual room. So I wanted to welcome everyone, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Twitter or anything Web 2, or whether you are in the actual virtual space right now. I want to give you guys a shout out for getting your technology and your goggles or whatever it is crazy kids are doing to make it a thing. I see the hearts and all that other stuff. Super exciting. Lewis, I want you to cue up this conversation because I think you have a great way of just, starting us off. So I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thank you. Before my interruption, it's always got to be that way. That was wonderful. That's Brian chiming in, getting the show started. I just want to say real quick what we're doing here and why, right? For people who are watching this on a live stream and for people who are in the virtual room, the metaverse, virtual reality gives us an opportunity to kind of connect in a way that we previously weren't able to connect. We either get on Zoom or we go to a website and we browse, but we can't talk to the artists, we can't talk to each other. We are trying to put these two worlds together so that people who are interested in these wonderful artists can come into the virtual world and come up and experience their conversation, experience their music, but also have the opportunity to ask questions and talk to them directly. I believe that this is a new hybrid method to connect us closer, and that's why we are experimenting away in this new phase. And it's not gamified. This is real stuff. So today, two wonderful human beings. There's no way I could do it justice and say enough. I want to thank both Sarah Charles and Chief Christian aTunde Adjuah for blessing us with their presence today. Fabian, you can speak a little bit about their successes and accomplishments, and then let's get right into it.
That's amazing. Again, just like echo what Lewis is saying, your time and your talent here on this call is very much appreciated all the way around. And I guess I'll just jump in speaking a little bit about you, Sarah. Following your sophomore album, which was released in October of 2017, titled Free of Form via Stretch Music, it's noted here that you began to think of your band's scope as more than just the band name. For you, it was a way of identifying your creative space that actually led into this breathtaking new album, Blank Canvas. We had you quoted here. You see scope as a more mission-oriented and reflective piece, right? It's about seizing the opportunity to do something with your craft to make an impact and share a perspective. Blank Canvas represents the opportunity to take this a step further, to challenge ourselves to do something different than before, making the choice to orient yourself in other direction at the exact moment that you might think you're out of options. And I have to say that for me, coming out of 2020 and all the things that came out of that, for me, that really rings a bell. And where people may have experienced loss or pain or felt hopelessness or fragile or even weak, you've also experienced some things over the past years, in addition to the political turmoil, in addition to the pandemic, you've went through a miscarriage, and a loss of your brother. And I think this album represents not only a homage to those things, but really just a way for you to express yourself and celebrate the joy of bringing a human being into this world and celebrating you being a mother, which is an amazing thing all of it itself, right? So I can go on and on and on, but I can't wait to hear conversations about you pertaining to this album, Blank Canvas. And when it comes to Chief, man, like I'm almost lost for words. I'm almost lost for words. We've been working together with Ropedo since 2015. And that's right there. That's significant, with over 9 releases, some singles mixed in there as well. I'm looking in preparation to this, Chief. I was looking at the timeline, Stretch Music in 15, Ruler Rebel in 17, Diaspora in 17, The Emancipation Procrastination in 17, the Centennial Trilogy in 17, Freedom is a Word in 17. 17 was a huge year that built up so much momentum.
Yeah, that was fun.
Follow and you weren't, and then you weren't done, and then you had more in the can, right? Followed by Ancestral Recall featuring Saul Williams, right? The title track, Ancestral Recall, the full album in 19, and then Axiom in 2020. Not to mention 6 Grammy nominations, in which 4 years in a row you were nominated, in which 1 year you had 2 nominations in 1 year, right? And then prior to that, you had I think it was the 49th Grammy Awards as well as a Grammy nomination. But on top of all
You're
of it,
aging me.
it's a good thing, man. That means you're wise. But check it out. Not only are you a musical leader in the community, not only are you creative, you're a curator of some phenomenal people and some phenomenal music. I mean, in addition to Sarah Elizabeth Charles, you brought cats like Alexander Flood, you brought cats like Weedy Brahma, you brought cats like Samora Pinderhughes, and I know there's so much more that's coming down the pike for you, and we'll jump into all of that. So I kind of want to redirect this conversation. I'm really, really excited to hear the two of you. This is not an interview. I'm simply a moderator that I would love to learn, just like our audience is learning too. So, Chief, I'm going to bring it to you. And I love to hear, Stretch Music, right? What's the connection that you see? What's Sarah's connection? What's her role? What is she contributing to this Stretch Music?
Sarah is the queen of Stretch Music in my estimation. If you ask me, anyone that asks me, that's always what I say. If I'm being wholly honest, I feel like it's sort of the undisputed heavyweight champion of the concept, in that she not only has the ability to process and synthesize all of these seemingly disparate cultural groups into a cohesive band concept, but it's also the level of humanity that she actually interacts with the musicians that she's building, and that is really a huge pillar of what it is that I'm speaking to. I think everywhere I go, anyone that knows, if you talk to me, I'm always kind of lauding my experiences, the great experiences that I had co-producing, the last couple of records that she did. Just because it was also a moment for me to be able to see behind the curtain of her own process, which is, honestly, I have been around what I would like to say are some of the best band leaders of a generation. Marcus Miller, my Uncle Donald's band, McCoy Tyner, these level of musicians. And what it is that I saw Sarah contribute in those moments, and how comprehensively built her particular sort of ethnomusicological approach to limitless fusion is. I think I don't think there's anyone that does it like that. And
Wow.
So and the difficulty in that is not just the fusing of the music, but to fuse the music in a way where when people hear it, they can't hear anyone else. Right. So it doesn't matter to me what context I hear. Anytime I hear her sound, her music, I immediately know exactly what it is. And it's not just because I'm a practitioner as well. It's because what it is that she has built is so comprehensively well done that it couldn't be anyone else. So, when anyone asks me, that's where I'm going to always cast my flag, is that she has had the ability to be able to create a band concept around what she's doing in terms of the conceptual elements of her compositions, that for our generation of practitioners, in my estimation, is the best built and the most comprehensively and robustly built that I've come across.
Wow. Sarah, what do you hear? What is your, listen, what are you hearing? What do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, Chief, thank you so much for those words.
No, don't thank me. I'm thanking you. No, because I learned so much from her, from what she's doing as well, right? A lot of times people don't deal with that. It's like there's synergy, but we're also learning and feeding off of each other. So no, I'm bowing to you.
Yeah, I mean, I admire so much of what Chief does as well, Fabian. So it's hard. We can kind of sit in a room
Love
and just
fest.
like love on each other in like the brother sister way.
Yes, love fest.
I mean, no, but for real though, like Chief has become, a member of my family. He's like a big brother to me at this point. And that, that happened. It's interesting how your introduction was so interesting, because I know Fabian to me, because I know that so much of what you said was written in the press release for Blank Canvas for this newest record. And I'm like, damn, I shared a lot in that. It's amazing. And I'm so appreciative of what I've built with my band. And I'm saying that very intentionally, because it's a space that really offers an opportunity to be vulnerable with each other via creativity. And so I want to give a huge, not even a huge shout out, but just like flowers to Bernice Earl Travis II, Boom Bishop, Jesse Elder, and John Davis for rolling with me for now 12 years. It's been this is our fourth record. Second on Stretch, but this is our fourth record. The first two releases were on Truth Revolution Records, Zakai and Lucas Curtis's record label.
I'm gonna see Lucas tonight.
Yeah. I want to shout them out because it's a very special, and now, the newest members of the band, Jordan Peters on guitar, and also Jesse Fisher, who co-produced this most recent release with me. These are people that I have extremely close creative and personal relationships with, who I trust immensely. And we're going to talk about the video side too, because there's a whole other layer of multidisciplinary collaboration that I've had the opportunity to do with the creation of videos for this project as well. This premiere being the very first video that we're sharing with the world. And so it's really, I feel like the potential that exists within the concept of Stretch music is that people can be fully themselves without being concerned with fill in the blank. And the first song that you played at the top of the hour, Borders, that's what the song is about. It's about finding a home within yourself that is only uniquely you, because, from what we know, right, there's only one of us on this planet, and we don't know kind of what comes after this life yet, or at least I don't know. I'll speak for myself. And so, I have guesses, or I have things that, I'm curious about. But while I'm on this planet, kind of moving through as and in the fullest version of myself as humanly possible is my only goal. And so I guess that's where I get to the oversharer part, because through my work, because that's it's my way of like communicating a part of myself that I'm not able to communicate otherwise. And I hear so much because I was born in 1989. And so there's so much music in me that I've been influenced by. And so this idea and this concept of Stretch music, I just feel like I'm just so glad that there's a name for it, because so often people are trying to put other people into boxes, not only in the creative sphere, but in other spheres as well, just in life, just so we can kind of understand each other and put our fingers on each other a little more. But I find it, through this process, through developing my relationship with Chief and Stretch music, and really kind of having the permission to just jump off a cliff and play and write and cultivate however and in whatever way feels natural to me. It's just really provided me the opportunity to be more attracted to people who aren't in those boxes, or who aren't concerned with those boxes, which is, I think, why we all find ourselves here, because I would count you and Lewis both as those people too. They're like, let's talk about what is, as opposed to like what it is, as opposed to what it needs to be.
I love that. Well, I just appreciate you kind of including me in that in the Love Fest, guys, because I really listen. I'm sincere.
True, man.
I get to work with a lot of people, and there's a handful of people that come to mind that can be as vulnerable and as transparent and is just real and articulate with what they're trying to communicate. And it's a pleasure. It really is a pleasure. And Sarah, what you're saying is really a perfect segue into one of the reasons why we're here to premiere this video. So, Lewis, I'm not sure if you can hear me in the virtual world, but I would love for there he is. He's in the real world. I would love for Sarah, for you to cue this up for Lewis and for our audience here, as we premiere this video.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I just shared before the call what song this video is for, but for those of you who are hearing it for the first time, this video premieres for a song called Blind Emotions. It was our first single off of this album, Blank Canvas, that we released on November 11th of last year. And the song is about inherent bias and acknowledgement of that and acceptance of that and journeying through it toward a surrender and a willingness to accept both ourselves and the world and the people around us and the people that we come into contact with. There's a postlude to this song that also has a video that will be premiering in the near future as well. And this song very much deals in the struggle of that journey. This song really deals with and speaks to this hardened ego, in my experience, that has gotten in my way when considering this process of like really surrendering to and accepting my humanness and the humanness of others fully. So in the song, I'm saying like, you say your, and I'm using the word you a lot. This is really also me looking in the mirror and speaking to myself and saying like, you think that you're so woke, you think that you're so, but I move through the world just like everybody else with my own experience, baggage, and bias. And I don't think that those aren't bad words to me. Those are like important words that in my experience, because that's the only thing that I can speak to, really have served me to acknowledge their existence in me. And it's been a hard and healing journey to kind of move through that acknowledgement and make that a part of my human practice as much as I can, very imperfectly.
Wow.
So I'll pause there. I think.
No, that's beautiful. And Lewis, I'll bring it to you to
All right, apologies for that little technical glitch there, but it looks like we got
Don't apologize. We heard it.
yeah, we heard it.
Man, come on.
I think we have time. I think we have time for me to fix it up and crop it and run it again. It's a nice.
Yeah,
bite-sized
it's
piece.
interesting.
And
It's
it was
interesting,
still really
actually.
visually arresting too, you
It
know.
was.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that come to mind. First of all, I mean, there's a lot of creativity behind the production of that video. You can tell in the first 3 freaking seconds of what's going on, right, Sarah? So, you know, here's some fun facts. I believe you were 5 months pregnant while shooting that video. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. You know, brand new mom, you know, first time, right? So how are you navigating? How did you navigate that process, 5 months pregnant and being so full force with your art and your creativity and getting this message out? How does one do that?
Yeah, you know, I haven't heard a lot of moms who are musicians and speak publicly as much about the process and the experience of being pregnant. And it's happening now, and in a really beautiful way. It's starting to happen now, and I think it's really important because there are a lot of things that I didn't know prior to being pregnant, because there are so many things that aren't talked about in our society in relationship to pregnancy and bringing humans into this world, and birthing, and also parenthood too. It's sort of like it's like a secret club sometimes, and you don't know it until you move through it. And I wish that I had known certain things. And I say that all to say, or to share that my first trimester was really hard, and pretty debilitating. And you know, the world was kind of shut down in a way. Lewis, by the way, that looks great. Whatever you just did, I think that's it. All right. Well, maybe should we pause for now and I'll finish this response and then we can, perfect.
No, we're good.
But that looks great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my first trimester was really rough. And the world this was 2021, beginning of 2021. So the world was still pretty shut down at that point. And so I was able to kind of be very kind of quiet and rest and do what I needed to do because my body was turning into a factory. And then my second trimester hit and I felt so good. And that's when I recorded that's when we did all the post for this record. So me and Jesse were just like in a room. Chief was with his bow recording and sending, you know, so it was like, we were like, that was like my work trimester. And this video and some other videos as well were shot during that time. And I went back and forth about shooting them then because I wasn't quite sure about, specifically for this video, there's a lot of physical movement, you know, dancing in dunes. I don't recommend it, especially when you're 5 months pregnant.
I love it.
Next time you dance in dunes, I'm gonna strap like a 4-pound like thing like to your stomach.
Right.
he wasn't quite
turn into quicksand. Yeah.
But no, it was really it was a really interesting and cool process in spite of the difficulty and the physical demands for this specific video for Blind Emotions. It was just myself and Shelly Travis, the director of photography, at Fort Tilden Beach in Brooklyn. That's in Brooklyn, right? Not in Queens. Here I go.
Brooklyn. No, I think
Brooklyn.
I think you're right.
And thank you. And it was we were just playing the track over and over and over again all day, and we barely spoke. To be like, we just listened to we talked about everything in advance. She kind of interviewed me and and just wanted to get an understanding of the song and the concept and the imagery as best as possible prior to us starting. And then once we got there, I mean, we had a close relationship prior to this day as well, but we were just kind of like moving through as we were two entities, but we were very much tethered and connected energetically the entire day. And it was cold, and but it didn't matter. It was just so like the energy was like so high. And I think that Ty, my baby, because in utero was like he was giving me energy because and adrenaline was just like flowing and coursing through my veins in a really big way. But he felt like very present. And it was just really beautiful being able to do that and now have this video and others that document where I was at that time, in my motherhood journey, in my human journey, and like in my physical transformative journey. You know, I watched this video and I'm like, I don't recognize myself in certain moments because I transformed to me so much physically when I was pregnant, that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like look at that person. Like that looks like an alien version of me, you know? It's like, speaking of like avatars, you know, it's like a different, you know, different level of that or different version. So anyway, that's just sharing a little bit about the process and where I was at in relationship to my motherhood and human journey.
No, I really appreciate that. And you know, before I get Chief's, you know, impressions and his thoughts and his response to that, you know, something you had mentioned earlier before we had premiered this video was acceptance of self, you know, the internal bias. You know, you spoke to these things, and I'm just curious how that shows up for you in relation to this video, how you felt you were communicating these things in this video.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, starting in the warehouse space, my plan was to be completely barefoot in that space and moving around. But that floor was covered in glass. And so I had shoes on, but it was like they were flip-flops. And so there was literally this like tension like in my body and in this hardened setting, as we were filming that very first part. And that was the order that we did it in as well. We filmed in the warehouse first. And the idea of going from this like hardened, tough, tense space of like, no, I'm not going to change. My ego is my ego. Like, this is what I'm going to latch onto because this is what I know. This keeps me safe. The illusion, right? That like we tell ourselves, or that I tell myself, like, no, this is who I am and where I come from. And so, and I'm not going to hear you, or I'm not going to empathize with you at all. And I'm just going to latch on to that. That starts to soften in my mind as we move toward the water and the beach and the dunes and the sand. So first to the dunes in a space that's sort of like, that I kind of see as like a, what's the word? Like a purgatory kind of esque space in this journey toward acceptance of self and acceptance of others. It's kind of like, okay, I'm here, but it's still rough and I'm still not quite showing the entirety of myself because I'm hiding behind the grasses and I'm moving and I'm trying to move, but I'm sinking as I go and I'm failing and I'm fucking it up, you know? and that's okay, because doing this imperfectly is just a lie. Like there's no doing this perfectly. And then gradually finding the water. Feet are so huge to me and so symbolic in so many ways. There are a lot of shots. I don't love my feet, but I always have like shots of my feet in my content, if you haven't noticed, because I think they're so representative of like of the potential, you know, of where we can go and what's possible. And so the movement through the sand toward the water and showing my feet kind of being sinking in the sand, but also being kind of freed up by the waves as they come into the shore. That's also extremely symbolic, and relates to kind of just the beginning of like starting to like loosen my grip ever so slightly around that hardened ego space. And then you'll have to see what happens next in the postlude in the sequel. But that's where this video ends, and that's where the song ends.
I think,
Lewis?
I mean, now that I've heard all that, I think it's perfect to watch this video again. But I want to give Chief a chance to chime in,
please,
before we get to it.
Well, you know, for me, what keeps coming up is kind of what I hearkened to in the very beginning of the conversation, which is, you know, I think when a human being, you know, obviously it's great when you have artists that do it because they're disseminating their stories and experiences that further along, you know, the zeitgeist's overall experience. And when you see what Sarah is contributing, so much of it for me is wrapped up in building courage, right? And I think that's something that we don't talk about so much. You know, one of the things that I've always enjoyed about everything really that she's contributing, and not just how daring a band leader she is and all these things, but also how she commands the stage. You know, recently we were able to share multiple nights in a row in New York, and that experience, like I keep hitting my manager, like, all right, we got to put some more stuff like this together. This is insane, but she has this way of creating courage and willing things out of you that you don't get in other contexts. I can't speak for other musicians. I can only speak for myself, you know? And one thing that was coming up for me a lot as I'm thinking this through is we did Freedom Day live. And I was scared to death. I was like, oh gosh, you know, because the thing is, it's like my relationship to the bow is very different from my relationship to the trumpet, right? So like I would say that like the relationship to the trumpet, the synapse firing between me and that instrument are probably more together than me, you know, speaking to you in this English right now, right? There's another kind of bond. But with the bow, it's in its infancy, and I'm simultaneously trying to seed and create a new instrument while also building a methodology and a technique, you know, and to try and play with high-level practitioners like this in an environment that could move in any moment and do all of these things was nerve-wracking and really scary, frightening from that perspective, right? It was the first time that I performed and used the instrument live where I wasn't also playing over my own environment, my own music. And I can't tell you how one, gracious, but also like, I don't know. I just feel like Sarah would be she is the best mom, but I'm always just thinking like she would have been like the greatest teacher on the planet, right? Because she has this ability to I don't know how to put that, but it's like safe is not the right word. Really what I'm trying to say is that she has this ability to pull your best you out of you. Right. And I think a big component of that, when I speak about the courage building component and these things, really what I'm speaking about is, you know, you have friends in your life where when you're going through a rough patch or you're going through different things, no matter what it is, you can intimate those things to them. And you know that your value in their eyes doesn't shift. Right. You know, for lack of a better way of putting it, nothing changes. You know, like if they hold amorous and positive energy for you, there are some people that you can feel that on. And for me, you know, not just what she's doing in this musical context, but also even in that moment, which was on a bandstand of mine, which, you know, most people outwardly would look at that and say, oh, okay, well, it's his bandstand, he's got it together. But it's like, you know, I'm like biting my nails before having to get up there and play that harp behind her on that, you know? And, but she made me feel so comfortable that eventually I started making some really wild mistakes and jumps. Maybe some things she might not have wanted in it ended up being there. But, you know, I think when she's speaking about coming into your own, and also the recognition in the fact that we are all flawed and that we all are on a trajectory, and her actively making a choice, not just in terms of what she's creatively contributing and building, but in her life to choose to face the mirror. That is, you know, if we're being honest about that choice in a lot of people's lives, that's a frightening choice, right? Because, you know, not all the time you're going to like everything that comes back in that space. Sometimes they may be things that you wish you had done differently, or things that relationships that may be different. Sometimes they may be folks you want to intimate something to that are no longer with you. All of these things are wrapped up in those things when you're facing that mirror. So for her to take such a valiant stand repeatedly, it's not like, you know, it's not like Red was like that and then the rest of the records weren't, right? It's if you track what has gone on with all of these recordings, they all have vestiges of that courage building component that I'm speaking to. So for me, that's the main thing that I see. And it's the main thing that makes me a little short of breath and a little emotional, even as I'm saying all of these things, because, you know, as much as we're dealing with art and we're talking about these contributions in terms of what the audience is getting, as someone that knows her and has gotten to know her and learn her and become really close over the years, seeing someone that committed to their own growth, but also the larger growth, is very, very rare. And sorry, I know I'm running on. I know I tend to do this, but I want to say this because this is important, because there are also a lot of folks that exist in the artistic realm that will teeter back and forth between these things when it advantages them, versus actually really being about the mission of the work, right? Which again, like just like she's saying, when she looks at the video of herself at 5 months pregnant, there's some things she doesn't recognize. There's some things like, oh, I remember you, all of those things. To me, when I'm looking back over her trajectory and what it is that she's built and what she's doing, I also feel that way about myself, not just as a musician, but as a person, you know? And so to be able to have, for me, someone in my life artistically that is also a reference point that lets you know that you can hold on to that flag and continue to champion those things, not just for yourself and the betterment of your own growth, but for other people to understand that, like, we are all human and that we're fallible and flawed, but that doesn't mean that you're not valid. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be worthy of love and all of those things, has been one of the best parts of being an artist in the last 5 or 6 years, is just being able to experience those things with her. So yeah, I'm just getting a little emotional here, but I'm just grateful.
You know, hearing that, and we're going to have Lewis cue this up. There's 3 words that come to mind after hearing both of you speak and share. One is beginnership. The next is vulnerability. And the last is creativity. And when we come back from watching this, I really want to talk about, you know, the collaborations that went into putting all this together. I really want to talk about the relationships between those collaborations. And then we can kind of wrap up things with, you know, what's coming up and what's down the pike for both of you guys. But Lewis, at this point, can you
You say you're colorblind, but tell me, what do you see when you see me? You say unbiased mind, but tell me, what's your experience being free? Moving in the dark, it can be so hard. Stepping through the trials set to keep you down, caught up in the fire of our own blind emotion, blind emotion, blind emotion, blind emotion, blind emotion, blind emotion, blind emotion. We say we love our kind, but tell me, how do you treat your fellow beings? We say we're open-minded, but tell me, why feel the need to cross the street? Moving in the
Wow. Thank you for queuing that up again. And, so I'm going to bring it back to you. There's a lot of beginnership conversation, and hopefully you guys can resonate with that word. Beginnership when it comes to playing a new instrument, beginnership when it comes to motherhood, beginnership when it comes to grieving in a certain way that you've never had to grieve before, beginnership, but also comes with a level of vulnerability. And then of course, the umbrella is you turn this into the creativity that comes out from that is just phenomenal. And I love to hear you speak towards that, and then speak towards the collaborators, and your connections with all of that, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what's interesting is, this conversation can feel or sound really heavy in a lot of ways, and kind of like, oh man, like how, like insurmountable, but actually what I'm feeling right now and what my experience has been of creating this record, creating this song, creating this video has really boiled down to like not taking myself too seriously, like actually, like, and not taking life too seriously. I talked about like the clutching before, like the loosening allows for, it doesn't just allow for like, oh, all of a sudden my hands know what to do and I'm doing everything, the way that I should be. It's like, no, actually now I can like, I'm not a dancer. I'm dancing all over this video. Like, allowing myself to do things that scare me, like do things that I don't necessarily even identify with. Like that's where the vulnerability and like the beginnership possibilities come through. Like that's what it's grounded in. And it really is like about not taking myself too seriously and not holding things too precious in too precious a way. So I share that also in relationship to the collaborations. I wanted to share that in relationship to the collaborations, because this track is like a combination of two completely different, not completely different, but related, but very disparate creative processes. And so, the track was playing in the studio, and we asked John Davis, who engineered and also mixed and mastered this album at Bunker Studio, to just play the track, The Bed, over and over and over again. And we just looped it and played different versions for like 15 or 20 minutes as a band. Wow. We being John Davis, drummer John Davis. You know how
yes.
I do that.
I'm wishing I'm like, God, I missed it. I could feel it when she says that. I could feel that. Yeah.
So it was, me, John Davis, Boom Bishop, Jesse Elder, and Jordan Peters in the studio, just playing this over. And I know by the end of it, the band's like, damn, Sarah, like, come on, but the idea is that we get enough content so that then afterward in editing, we can really piece together what feels right and what feels good. And it actually ended up being mostly one consecutive take with some other additions. But then came the process of, Jesse Fisher and him saying yes to co-producing it, taking it, knowing me trusting him fully in the same way that I trusted, Chief fully for the past two records, for Free of Form and for Inner Dialogue, and really saying like, hey, let me know what you hear. And just like, and then leaving it. I wasn't a part of the process of producing this track. That was really, I shouldn't even say co-produced. Jesse really produced this track. And, with the 808s and the key bass and electronic drums and sound design, he just like completely put a stamp on it that I couldn't have even fathomed or imagined. And it became this other thing, and I'm looking at the time, I realize we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to make sure that visually I shout out the people who have made, who made that space as well. I already mentioned Shelly Travis and how much I appreciate and just trust her vision and her eye, and her to capture, like she captured so many intimate moments in all of the shooting that we did, including for this video. But I also want to mention Mia Wright-Ross, who is the creative director of MWR, and she did all of the styling, all of the, everything you see. She's been my best friend for 16 years, and so she knows me super well, and all of those pieces she put together, and also connected me with two amazing wearable art designers, Aziza Abdullah Nicole, and Kayomi is another brand that I was wearing of wearable art. And that particular those particular pieces are made by an artist named Camila, who's an amazing vocalist and singer and songwriter, and so it's just really interesting. I said vocalist and singer, but y'all know what I mean. So yeah, it's just been really, or it was really cool shaping kind of the visual space initially with those folks. And then on the tail end, really doing a lot of the editing and production visually with Nilo Tabrizi and Olivia Becker, who did all of the editing. So it was really important to me too, to kind of have like a team. Having this like femme team was so powerful, because so much of my creative space historically has been so dominated by male energy. And I mean, not my energy necessarily, although I got some of that as well. But I really wanted a femme team for this visual space, and really am starting just generally too to broaden my scope and my community and relationship to folks that I'm working with, because it yields, working with different people yields different results and inspires different things in me too. So I'm really excited about continuing to broaden that team. But those are some of the folks. I don't think I left anybody out. I hope I didn't. But who really made all of this come to fruition in a way that I'm really proud of.
I mean, thank you, both of you guys, for I could be really lost for words, man. Being in this space with you and sharing this time with you, and really hearing you express what's on your heart about your process, and really articulating and communicating like the experience that you had with not just us in the room, but for everyone who's online and listening to this. It's really something special. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give you guys an opportunity to, what's coming, what's up. I think, Sarah, I have my notes here. You got a lot of stuff coming up. I probably missed some things here, but there's some upcoming tour dates. Winter Jazz Fest show this Saturday on the 14th, which is amazing. I think you might see Fabian in New York. We'll talk about that offline. We'll talk about that offline. Well, and then we have the Hudson Jazz Festival on the 17th in February, Europe in spring. You got some more US dates to be announced. Tell me something good, Sarah. What am I missing, or what do you want to, accentuate in what I'm saying here?
I mean, you're saying a lot of the things. It's a real process of learning, being a parent, and my partner and I navigating kind of being away, touring, playing more. And so to be completely honest, because why would I not be? I'm sort of like, I'm just starting to kind of get back out there and play more and more. And it's feeling really good, but I'm also, very cognizant and being very, trying to just be very intentional about everything that I'm doing right now, because this is a really special time for my family and for my kiddo too. So I'm so excited about the potential that's starting to present itself for us to be like doing this together. And that's happening. And all of those dates that you just mentioned are coming. Most immediately is that the Winter Jazz Fest date on Saturday. So come through, look out for more dates as I post them. We'll be in Germany and Paris and other spots in Europe in May, which is very exciting. And then working on more US dates as well. So stay tuned.
Love it. I think you lean into the word beginnership just very well there. Charles. Chief, I know you listen, man. I know you got some big things coming up there. What can you share that is coming up at this Presimo that you have coming down the pike?
The records, I think, we have a new record coming in the summer called Bark Out Thunder, Roar Out Lightning, which is we like to describe it as a record to save the tomorrow of the blues and rock and roll. It's the record is really faceted around the music of the Maroons in Louisiana, which is the specific cultural group that sort of held the skeleton keys to what eventually turned into blues and jazz music. And I've always been since I was small, I always considered myself a blues musician before a jazz musician or any of that. I was taught as a little boy that jazz was just blues that learned to speak all languages by people like the great Danny Barker and these sort of folks. So we made a record to deal with that. So you're going to hear traditional music It's kind of like a field recording, like from 200 years in the future. So you'll hear some things that come directly out of the Maroon traditions and the chiefdom that I represent. But that is also going to be coupled with brand new bow music, music that I created on this 21st century corollary to a West African Ngoni kora type of instrument that we call the bow. So it's sort of half and half of old traditional Maroon music and then 21st century forward-facing, music to seed some new sounds. And then after that, we have a record that's sort of like Ancestral Recall 2 in its production methodology and sort of compositional acumen that was required to build it is very similar to Ancestral Recall. That one is called All Fire. And then the third record, which caps all of it up, actually has a song that has become my favorite. This sounds weird for one of your own songs to become a favorite, but it's also a song that my mother, every time she hears it, she cries. I get really emotional. It's a song that Sarah and I co-wrote and did a remix of called Songs She Never Heard. And so that's going to be on the third record that's titled The Sankofa Queen. And it deals with the incredible contributions of the Black women all over the world. And so I'm looking forward to that one. And I want to get with you, Sarah, to get in the studio so we can have another remix for it as well. I'm still tracking some of the music for that one. So, but 3 records coming down the line for the next 18 months. So get ready.
Man, I'm very ready. Your time and your talent is just so much appreciated. For me personally, Rope-A-Dope, obviously, I'll speak for the avatar in the room, Mr. Lewis Marks.
We love him.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Lewis is like he's the guardian angel of all this music, man. It's like if you don't know, you really need to know. I can speak for myself. I know that you were speaking, Fabian, but I just have to give him a shout out because none of this music exists in the way that it exists in this moment, at least as I see it, without him being willing to champion us and to say, hey, what do you need to be able to do this and to be able to create the things that you actually envision. So, we're constantly bowing to him because he is the guardian angel. And I know he hates when I say that shit, but I'm saying it and it's on the record now.
Yes. Ditto, echoed.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Shit.
Shout out and hi to everybody, by the way, in all the spaces. We didn't say that at all, and I just want to connect to spaces and say hi.
Very, very cool.
Thanks to everybody who.
Well, Lewis, you want to take us out?
Yeah. I echo what Sarah said.
Oh no, we can't hear you.
Try the mute and unmute thing. I love. There we
go. All right, this is a do. Ray.
I heard you.
me.
You can tell it was off key. It was me.
Did we lose him again? No.
We lost you, Lewis.
What?
One more time. Check 1, check 2.
Check.
Hit the unmute button. Let's see it.
Now?
There we go.
It's a finicky. I don't know what you guys call that. It's a finicky microphone, if you ask me. At any rate, echo what Sarah said. Hi to everybody who's out in the virtual room and everybody who's out there in Web2, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and all of that. Thanks for tuning in. We are here every Thursday at 5:00 with different content. I want to mention that we have a couple things coming up. Next week, a film screening from Richard X. Bennett called Wire Park, which is some imagery from around Brooklyn during COVID, which should be interesting. Then we return with Dorian's Mode in early February about incarceration and music therapy. It's a regular show, album, book being created in real time here. And then, of course, Fabian and I have our Thursday night hang to make some music. So stay tuned, come back. Huge thanks to Sarah Charles and Chief Christian aTunde Adjuah. I can't say enough. Thank you for the kind words. If I'm doing anything, I'm simply just paying attention. That's all I can say. Because what you said about some of the greatest music being made This is it. I can see that, and I think more people will see that as time goes by. This last 17 and 10 and 5 and even now, what's happening now is something that really, it's kind of getting drowned out a little bit by all of the other noise that exists on planet Earth. But we're keeping it going. And Mr. Brown.
Absolutely, Mr. Brown. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Fabian.
For Mr. Brown.
Just hanging with you guys. That's all.
All right.
Just hanging.
I'm like, just kind of grinning ear to ear, thinking of just looking at you guys here too, and just that snapshot of this moment. I think what's really cool is, like when I see the room and see, our faces in kind of this sort of hybridized forum too. It's just, it's not just what we're trying to actualize in terms of the creative output, but the work that you guys are doing to help us disseminate it in all of these really cool and adventurous new forums as well. I think, I can't underscore how pivotal that is. When not just for what it is that we're doing in this moment, but I also think about the musicians that are going to come, the artists that'll be around in 20, 30, 50, 70, 100 years. And these are the foundational moments that are being created right now. So when I say that, someone's a guardian angel or I'm bowing to you guys and all of that, in our culture, we don't bow. So that means a lot when I'm saying that, but the reason that I'm saying it is because I think there's so much that gets made out of, Fabian, you mentioned beginnership. We talked about the harp and all of these newer things that we're doing conceptually with the art. What gets left out all the time is the new things that you're envisioning and creating in terms of creating more access in these kinds of forums to disseminate the content. And Louis, like you say, you're paying attention, we're paying attention too. So this is why I'm bringing that up, because it is a real doozy when you have the ability to contextualize so much that goes on in these sorts of spaces that really don't actually help foster the kind of light that you guys are building. So I'm grateful for that.
I hereby declare this love fest
Adjourned.
Adjourned. We're gonna go out with the title track from the album. Is that right, Sarah? Title track.
Yeah,
on the way out.
this is Blank Canvas. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
There was a time, simple it was, no matter that eluded us, feelings of strain hidden beneath it all. There was a time, honest was he, leading all to prosperity, feelings of greed fed all deceit. As we listen to the silent tears, we feel them. As we listen to the silence break, we fall. As we listen to the silent tears, we feel them. And release it all. No way to know of what will come when one abuses all but some. Power is gained at the expense of you. listen, as we listen.